Hey guys, this is going to be my first Swift tutorial. I'm going to show you in a series of tutorials how to code in this language. Also, if you haven't ever experienced Xcode, I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you how to do um, less and more advanced stuff in Swift as the tutorial progresses. So in this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to create a first really basic application and just give you an idea of what the language is like. So just open up Xcode and create a new project. Um, go on OS X and select Command Line Tool. Then just change the language to Swift, and I don't know, just call it first app. Save it wherever, and there you go. We have a working app. So it doesn't really do anything now. So to actually make it do something, we should dive into the code. So the first thing you're going to see is that you only have a file, which is main.swift. This is because this is a command line application and doesn't involve the visual stuff like the iPhone has. I will be making tutorials about that, but for now, I'm just going to stick to the command line application so that we can focus on the language and not the graphics. But I will certainly dive into the graphic part too. So the first thing you'll notice is that you can just start writing some text, and you don't really need an entry point like C and C++ and C# have, which is the main function. You can start directly coding from just the first line. So this just imports a series of standard functions and libraries. And so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to create new items, new objects. So every data type is created using the var keyword. This just means that you're going to create a new instance. And var is general for variable in the sense that you create a data type and you then the compiler then understands what kind it is. So for example, you can create a string, which is just some text. And Swift will recognize that my test string is indeed a string. So what we can do is we can print this, for example, using the print line function that it just accepts the string. So if you run this, it should just print this is a string and then exit. Every data type with the var keyword can be modified. If you want something that cannot be modified, like the equivalent of a const in C and C++, you can just choose the let keyword, use the let keyword. But before that, I'm going to show you that this can be changed. So you can say my test string is equal to new string, and this will modify the string, and now it just printed new string because it changed it. But if I change this to let, now my test string is a constant, and you get an error that you cannot assign a new value to a let value. You can also create the usual basic data types such as integers, And now test integer is recognized as an integer. So let's say you want to create a number, but you want it to be a float instead of an integer. What you can do is just create an integer and then tell the compiler that that is instead a float and to treat it as such. So now if you remove this, test float is an integer. If you then add a cast, so colon float, test float now shows up as a float. But obviously we cannot modify it as it is a constant. You'll also notice that also numbers are printable without much effort. See, it just printed it. It didn't even require us to format it into a string. So this is just the basic of how to create a variable, how to print it, and how to edit it. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how functions work. But yeah, for now, this is a good starting point.